What's up, everyone? So in this video, I'm going to be doing a trade recap of the trade that I took on Tesla yesterday. Thursday, January 27th, had a pretty aggressive sell-off day, formed a very quick bear flag off the open, took it for a scalp, and made $1,215 in 45 seconds. Recently, I have been leaving a lot on the table, but the market is very volatile. Tesla's extremely volatile. Sometimes the spreads on the options can get a little wide, and just in case if it bounces, I don't want to be involved in that, so I'm taking quick profits. I probably can do a little bit better job holding slightly longer, but overall, you know me by now. I'm a scalper. I just consistently take the quick move. Woulda, coulda, shoulda is not a strategy when it comes to trading. I know I leave a lot of gains on the table, but at the end of the day, the most important thing for me is just being consistent. It is a big goal of mine to eventually be slightly more patient, maybe leave one contract as a runner, but it is not easy. I do not trust the stock market. I have a very hard time holding winners, but that is something that is a goal of mine moving forward. There's no such thing as perfection when it comes to trading. It's always a work in progress. So now let's take a look at the watch list. I was looking at Tesla, Netflix, AMD, and Rivian. And for anyone who is wondering, this is my private Twitter. I write a note about the stocks that I'm watching, why, kind of a quick overview of the market, spy in the cues, and then I put some mental notes, some things that I'm focusing on that day. I take a screenshot of the charts, green line to the upside being long, red line to the downside being short, and then I make sure to highlight those levels above. If you're at all interested in getting access to this, it's $29 a month. There's going to be a link in the description below. So now let's get into the technicals, starting with Tesla. It's been trending under the 9 EMA, had a move into it the prior day and rejected it. It reported earnings after the close the prior day. So coming in this morning, I didn't want to have too much of a bias, really just wanted to focus on the levels and the patterns. So the level to the upside that I was interested in was going to be pre-market high. To the downside was going to be pre-market low. Also knowing that prior day low was below. If it broke that support, it felt like it had a lot more room to the downside. And now Netflix, and the reason why I was watching this is because the news that Bill Ackman bought like 3.1 million shares in the company. It's very beat up on the daily. If the market could hold up, I felt like it had more room to the upside. It had a big reaction to that news in the after hours, held that move the next day. So I was looking at pre-market high. It kind of ran through pre-market high. So the next level was going to be prior day high, took that out just before the open. So just readjusting that pre-market high along the way, that was going to be the main level to the upside. And then if for some reason strength wanted to get sold, my main level to the downside was going to be pre-market low. So now AMD, and the reason why I was watching this is because apparently China gave the approval for AMD to buy Xilinx. So it was very volatile in the pre-market. The levels that I was looking at to the upside was going to be pre-market high. To the downside was going to be prior day low because it was trading above that. And then also knowing that pre-market low was below. So there was a lot of technicals below. If it broke those, I felt like it had room to the downside. And now Rivian, and the reason why I was watching this is because I thought there was a chance that it was going to trade in sympathy with Tesla. Also, it's been very weak on the daily chart, just trending under the 9 EMA. Not really doing a whole lot in the pre-market, but the levels that I was looking at was going to be pre-market high to the upside and to the downside, pre-market low, but also knowing that prior day low was below. If it took out those levels, it also had all-time low below. So there was a lot of stuff to the downside. If it broke all of them, I felt like there was more room to the downside. So now let's break down Tesla and what happened prior to getting into the actual trade. So the first 2-minute candle sold off aggressively and it broke a technical level to the downside. So when I talk about waiting for patterns to form around those levels, sometimes those levels break and then the pattern forms just below it. I prefer for that pattern to form just above it, but the stock market is not perfect. So I got to take what I can get. So just knowing how aggressive this sell-off was, look at this next candle, could barely bounce, and actually pre-market low now became resistance. And then the next candle starts to roll over again, kind of takes out that flag low. I know it's not a perfect flag, but like I mentioned before, nothing is perfect in the market. When it takes out those lows, and clearly the buyers in this candle could not go any higher, and then when it breaks that low, look at the follow through. So a nice flag and big time move to the downside. So now let's get into the actual trade. So I had that huge move lower off the open, below the 9, below VWAP, has that green candle in between. I wanted to anticipate that low. So I ended up going short. I took the 9-10 puts, only 3 of them because Tesla's very volatile. And I got filled at $26.50. And the reason why I took really quick profits is because look how big this move is. So I got short right around 9.12. And this thing has an insanely aggressive sell-off. And whenever I get a move that big, that quick, I'm always just going to take profits because you never know if it's going to bounce. And I don't want to mess a good thing up, especially when I can get multiple dollars on the options. really starts to accelerate to the downside, comes into that 902, and when it starts to bounce a little bit, I end up taking profits because I got a very big move on those contracts, and I sold those at $30.55 for a nice win. So now let's go check out the P&L. I was in that trade for 45 seconds and made $1,215, which is a nice green day for me. That was the trade recap. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just wanted to highlight a couple cool things I have to offer. The first is going to be my newsletter watch list. This is going to be what I post on my private Twitter 30 minutes before market open every day. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a very quick highlight of the SPY, the Qs, the bigger picture, the upside level that I'm looking at, the downside level that I'm looking at, the market news or the catalyst that day. And then I'm going to list 4 to 6 names that I'm watching, my favorites that day, and then the catalyst behind them if there's any news, the bigger picture idea, what's going on the daily chart, and then the levels to the upside and the downside. And then I add some mental notes at the bottom, kind of what I'm thinking that day, make sure to keep my expectations in check and follow my process. And the second thing is going to be a one-on-one call. So if you want something that's less of a commitment and you just want to talk to me about my process and how I approach the market, this is going to be great. It's a one-on-one live call for 1 hour. So if you're interested in any one of these 2 things, there will be links in the description below. Feel free to check them out.